Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy, it's your host, Calvin Domingo, aka Steezy A. Smith with Press Sports. And today I got a very special guest joining me today. As I like to call them, you guys better get familiar with it by now. It's not a VIP, it's a VIG, and that stands for a very important guest. But before I introduce her, I just would like to remind the users out there, I like to remind the people out there, as users on the app know, we want to feature athletes who have a story to tell. And this lady right here, folks, has a great story to tell. She's a big user on the app. She's verified and all that good stuff. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome 2022 Grand Collegiate National Champ and current member of LSU's cheer team, Miss Aliyah Clark. Miss Aliyah Clark, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm feeling wonderful. Like I said, off air, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I hope you're having a great day and hope you're ready for some questions.
Yep.
All right, let's kick things off then. So I want to start from the beginning. What got you into cheerleading and at what age?
So I started cheerleading when I was 3 years old. I kind of just got put in by my mom. She started with mommy and me classes, and
Mhm.
I kind of went from there. I took off really fast, and I was a very outgoing, brave kid that just wanted to try new things. So every time I was like, I want to try that, and then it just went from there.
And who do you primarily cheer for? Growing up, at least.
I
Sorry.
for a small gym in Allen, Texas called NV Cheer,
Mhm.
where I grew up most of my time there. I cheered for about 12, 13 years there until I started with cheer athletics. And then it eventually went into Navarro and college cheer at LSU.
And I've heard some great things about that college, which we'll touch on in just a second. But before we do that, I want to ask you: do you prefer stunting or tumbling?
So if you would have asked me this when I was younger, it would have been tumbling. But as I've evolved into college cheerleading, stunting has opened my eyes a lot, and just amazes me how much it's grown. And I actually got the chance to start co-eding, which is one boy, one girl, and it was a really cool experience. And I hope to keep doing it.
Is that similar to? Because I saw some of your stuff on the Press Sports app, and I was just seeing a whole bunch of like crazy stunts where like there's like three dudes, and then like they're like throwing you in the air, and they're doing all sorts of stuff, and I'm just like, wow, like does that involve what you were just talking about, like
Yes,
with the one boy and the one girl?
yes. So my
Yeah.
favorite type of stunning is actually with three boys. You can do way
Um,
things like when obviously you have three boys under you compared to one, but
right.
more impressive when there's one boy under you. You're like, oh my god, she's standing on one person. But I personally like the group stunning more just because it's comfortable for me. But a
Right.
lot of athletes are going into co-ed stunning, and they call the three boys an all girl group. So it's like usually all girls are under you, and
Uh-huh.
so impressive to see all girls underneath a stunt. Like I don't know, it's just so different.
Wow, that's wild. I mean, I can only imagine how much upper body strength you'd have to have just to be able to, you know what I mean, throw them up in the air and be able to hold them up still. And I
And
commend them. I applaud them. But I also commend and applaud what you do because that looks like some scary stuff. I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, growing up, I know you kind of, you always had a passion for it and whatnot. But was there ever a point in time where you were just like, yo, like this stuff is actually pretty dangerous. So like this stuff is scary.
yes, a lot, especially coming into college. The tumbling
Mhm.
aspect very hard, and when you start to see a lot of people getting better skills, you're like, "Oh, I want to try that skill." And you're going to fall a few times or 3 or 4, but
It's inevitable.
yep, but you get back up and you keep going, and it's just a part of the sport. We train to be tough athletes. A lot of people oversee what we do, and they think that we're just sideline cheerleaders. But at the end of the day, a lot of behind the scenes goes on that they don't understand.
Oh, 1000%. I mean, you guys put in a whole bunch of practice time. You guys put in a whole bunch of work. You guys grind. You guys put in hours after hours after hours. And so, for someone to make an assumption like that, I ain't got nothing to say to you, but you might be a little ignorant. You know what I mean? So, yeah, no, those people, they're just hating. Either that, they just don't know better. So, but I guess, the hate, it comes with it, right?
Yep.
Um, So that's one of the bad things, I guess, about the sport, all sports, for that matter. But I wanted to ask you, so as it pertains to cheerleading, and you might have touched on this, but what's your favorite part about the sport itself?
Honestly, I like the sport because of the people it's brought me. It's brought me some of my best friends, and the environment of cheerleading is just so different from, I would say, the outside world. A lot of cheerleaders will tell you there's a cheer world and then there's a real world, and like the cheer world, it's crazy, but it's fun. You meet a lot of different people and like a lot of different backgrounds. Um,
Mhm.
for instance, at Navarro, there's people from all over the world, even from out of country, and so it's really cool to like experience different people from everywhere and all coming in as one team and like seeing us evolve throughout the year is just amazing. So that's one of my favorite things about cheerleading is just like the environment, the culture behind it.
Right. And so you kind of spoke on, being able to meet, you know, this amount of people or being able to meet, this sort of group of people. Are you the type of person that likes to network and connect even outside of the sport?
I do. I love to go on social media and just like, oh, they're a cheerleader too. That's cool. Like, let's follow them. Let's get to know.
Right.
Yeah, and it's
Okay, that's good.
when we travel for cheerleading, like see the face to the name. So it's like, oh wait, I know you, and they're like, yeah, like we saw each other on social media, and I just think that's
Right. I mean, and maybe it doesn't directly apply to this, but sometimes it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. You know
yeah.
what I mean? And so um there might come a point in time later on where you come across somebody you met through cheer and maybe, there's a job opportunity or anything, honestly, and so for me, I take a lot of pride in networking as well. So it's great to hear that, you're doing a lot of that as well in and outside of cheerleading. But I wanted to ask, I know at the beginning I talked about how you currently attend LSU and you're on the cheer team over there. But before LSU and after high school, and you're actually repping the shirt right now, so this is a good segue. But I think, and if I'm not mistaken, this is actually one of the top schools, if not the top school in the nation for cheerleading. And so, what do you think makes Navarro the successful program that it is today? And aside from that, what drew you to that school after high school?
So actually, what drew me to this school was one of the athletes recruited me and was like, "Hey, come look at our school." And I'm like, "No, like I'm not going to a junior. I want to go to a university, live out my college experience, whatever." And then I started getting closer to the end of my high school year, and I was like, you know what? I don't really know what to do with my life yet. So I'm going to actually take a step into this direction and see where it goes. So I went to a clinic. I tried out. Monica offered me a spot on the team that day. And I was like, I guess this is where I'm going to go to school in this little bitty town in Texas. So I don't live too far from there. I actually grew up in Plano, so it's only an hour and a half away. I was like, it's close to home. Junior college is cheaper. I didn't know what like career path I wanted to go down yet, so it all just fell in place for me. And one thing that I would say that Navarro is way different is like, even though it's a small town and like really different than the college experience, you definitely get like the best of the best cheerleading, and we put in hours and hours of work just for one competition for the year, and it definitely showed this year for sure.
I, I believe it 100%. I mean, there's a reason why you're over at LSU. That's one of the more prestigious schools, in
Yeah.
the nation. So, I applaud you for that. But you kind of offended me a little bit. You talked about how junior colleges, you don't get the full college experience. Is that right?
I wouldn't say a lot of the time Monica would tell us like, you're here for a job. You're not here
Mhm.
to get your college experience. You're not here to party. You're not here to goof off. Like you have one job here and you get scholarship money. So like this is your job.
Mhm.
And she takes it very seriously. And if you're not on the serious wave with her, then you can't. It's
And it's you out of here, huh? It's bye bye.
yep.
I was totally just joking, by the way. I'm just trying to, I'm trying to be cool. But what was I going to say? So you talked about scholarships. So I guess I had this mistaken, but I was of the notion that, or I subscribed to the notion that cheerleading programs didn't give out scholarships. Is that wrong?
So they do give out scholarships, but as
Mhm.
a lot of us know that football and basketball and volleyball get a lot of full ride scholarships or a lot of money paid for. Most of the time, cheerleading will like waive your out of state. So if you want to go to a school,
Okay.
they will most of the time waive your out of state and give you a scholarship on top of that. But not very much of the time you'll get a full ride. But I have started seeing like a lot of schools giving more money, which is like opening up a lot of like more potential cheerleaders wanting to actually go to school for cheerleading too on this side.
Yeah, I think and we might have alluded to this, but I don't think there's enough of a spotlight, you know what I mean, on cheerleading. And I feel like with its popularity continuing to grow, it's only a matter of time before that changes, hopefully
Yeah.
in the near future. And so with that being said, I wanted to ask you, Aliyah, what keeps you motivated outside of the passion, for cheerleading, which you can't touch on if you want, but outside of that, if there's anything else, what else does keep you motivated?
I think what keeps me motivated is like just seeing all my friends succeeding. I want to be just as successful as them. And so, although cheerleading's not like my entire life, I haven't been the biggest known cheerleader ever. Um, it's just something that I've always enjoyed. Um, and it's just an extra activity that just gets me away from my problems, takes me away from all the stress that I have in school. So it's kind of just like my go to sport, and I love it.
It's kind of like your sanctuary, right? Like you kind of turn to that when things are kind of not going so well and whatnot. I can totally relate, and I think it's great that you found something that you can kind of lean on, especially in tough times. And so I think that's a beautiful answer.
Yeah.
But like we talked about, you just transferred to LSU, and so I'm curious. What was your thought process when you decided to transfer? I know LSU isn't very far from Texas, so maybe that played a huge role in that, or am I wrong?
It did play a huge role. So LSU has been my dream school for a while.
Is
Um,
that right?
Honestly, it was between Louisville and LSU, which are two completely different schools. You're gonna go to Louisville. You're gonna go to Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
And I visited both schools twice, and I scoped it out. And the reason why I picked LSU is the environment. I would say, even though the cheer team is it's a UCA style cheer and it's not NCA. It's
Mm-hmm.
game day, so it's like more cheering for the school and instead of like competition cheer. So it's going to be a big change for me, but I'm excited.
So I'm assuming because I was gonna ask, what do you prefer more? It looks like you prefer competition type cheer as opposed to like performing for your school.
I've been a competition cheerleader my whole life, so
Oh.
yeah, it's just different. I also did high school cheer. It was just
Mhm.
it's different, but I'm excited.
So outside of like who you're performing in front of, what's the biggest difference, if there's really any, between school and then competition type cheer?
For LSU, I have to cheer in the state.
Mm-hmm.
It was very few, very few, very few stands at games and stuff like that because it was such a small school. Um, but for the competition wise, um, UCA is still pretty like a pretty known competition. It's held in Disney in January, but there's no view like the stands are not the same for Navarro. Like everyone just wants to go see Navarro.
Mm-hmm.
So
Damn. Well, I mean, LSU's so much bigger, right? I mean,
way bigger.
so and then have you participated in any events yet, or because you just no, you just transferred, so okay. Have you started practicing and stuff like that yet?
Oh, I start. We have camp in July, so
Okay.
I start. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I want to transition over to the Press Sports app now. And as you might or might not know, the Press Sports app has thousands of other cheerleaders, young cheerleaders that are looking to do, what you're doing. Because there's younger, there's older. And so I wanted to ask you, for those cheerleaders or even other athletes that look up to you, that want to do what you're doing, that want to follow the pathway that you've, kind of carved out for yourself, what sort of advice would you give to those people?
I would just say you started this sport for a reason. It's gonna get hard. It's gonna get tough, but you got to keep going no matter what. This is what you love to do. This is your passion. Don't give up and just keep going. Like, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard on you mentally, physically, and it's going to get stressful and you're going to want to quit a lot, but you got to just keep going and see your end goal.
Okay, that's a great answer. I mean, sometimes your why has to be greater than than the pain, or like it has to be greater than the circumstances in which you're dealing with. And so, again, that's a beautiful answer on your part, Miss Clark.
Thank you.
I want to ask, and just a couple more questions before we do wrap this up. So on the Press Sports app, you've been on it for some time now. Obviously, like I talked about, you're verified, and you uploaded quite a number of videos. What do you like most about it?
I just like how I can scroll and see like all cheerleaders, and if I wanted to go into a different sport, I can go look that up. Even like I can go look up LSU athletes and just see the timeline of them. It's really cool to see people's like film and stuff, and I'm like, oh wait, they got a new skill. Like, oh, I know her on this app, and so it's kind of cool to see how like people are transitioning, putting their like, um, I would say film of their sport onto this app and just like being involved. And I like how people hype my post up.
Right. I mean, I think the app is just it's so dope. But Miss Clark, I got one more question for you. So we touched on it just a little bit earlier, but when I was, going through your profile on the app, I just saw a whole bunch of videos of like the 3-man, you know, what would I call it? Like the 3-man moves where they, where they would throw you up and do all that. So out of everything that you've posted so far on the app, and I'm gonna see if we can try to pull this up, while our conversation is happening. But out of all your posts, which one is your favorite?
um, would you say for stunting or for tumbling?
I said just for both, whatever.
Honestly, I liked the one where I was doing the tumbling pass. It was a two to whip double, and I just like that one because that's been a very hard skill for me lately. It's
Mhm.
an inconsistent skill, I would say. I would do it, and then for a few months, I'd be like, I'm gonna stop. But that was one of my like favorites, just because it came out of retirement, I would say, and yeah. So,
Oh, I did see that. So on one of your posts, you talked about how like you came out of retirement as an all-star cheerleader, right?
oh yeah, I retired all star.
Oh, okay. So,
I'm
so when you say you retired, like you actually stopped cheerleading for like a year or so, and then you kind of got back into it, or
No, I came out of retirement last year because I was like, okay, I can't stop not cheering. And then now that I'm at LSU, I'm a retired all-star cheerleader. I'm just doing college.
okay, wow. Well, Miss Aliyah, you know what they say. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
So just about to wrap this up. Again, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us. This is our second ever interview on the Press Sports platform, and so we're very, very honored to have you as a second guest in these set of interviews. But before we go, please give the opportunity, give the fans out there a chance to let them know, what's happening next. Put your socials out there, plug yourself. But real quick before you do that, though, to everyone out there, if you use Press Sports, if you haven't already used it, or if you haven't already downloaded it, download the app. Be sure to fan her up and be sure to hype up her post, man. I mean, she got a whole bunch of crazy stuff, crazy stunts going on. So y'all be sure to tap in with that. I promise you, you will be entertained. But Miss Aliyah Clark, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Follow my Instagram at Aliyah Clark and my TikTok, Aliyah Clark. I enjoy watching and being on this app so much. Bye.
All right, y'all. Hey, this is Steezy A. Smith with Press Sports with a very special guest, and Miss Aliyah Clark. Hope you guys have a great day. Be easy.
Be easy.